I was thinking about this the other day. So Hitler at one point said the National Socialist Revolution would have been impossible without the Lautsprecher, so the speaker system and a microphone. And he was right. Like, I thought that that's a very insightful comment, that that type of mass mobilization is not even feasible unless you have a speaker system and you can yell at people. Like, none of that works if you're just, out there and so on.
How did the Romans used to do it?
I imagine they had megaphones and there was a lot of yelling with legion. I mean, there's interesting technology that happened, but in terms of mass mobilization, I mean, you could rile up a crowd. That's no doubt. And you had to have a big voice. William Jennings Bryan, he had this massive baritone voice, and he wouldn't have been possible without that. Now, you don't need that anymore. But you almost had to be like an opera singer in order to project to the back row of, some theater in Oklahoma where you're talking about the 10 Commandments and the evils of Darwin. And so to get people's attention, it's important. And it's kind of, we don't understand it. But I guess what I was thinking of in terms of these eras, so that was an insightful comment by Hitler. There's no doubt that the microphone and the speaker had a huge effect in terms of fascism, mass mobilization, etc. Then post-war, we had, and there's the age of the radio, and definitely that is bringing things into people's homes. And there was a lot of conspiratorial stuff, Father Coughlin type stuff that was hugely popular. We can't overestimate it, in fact, back in the day. But we obviously lived in a sort of television era where there were 3 or 4 networks, and it was largely top down and almost entirely passive. Like everyone would go home and watch the same like game show together, but there was a sense of national coherence. You're all watching Quiz Show or To Tell the Truth or some of these kind of, I don't know if you've ever watched them on YouTube. They're actually kind of fun, actually. There
was no live chat on the nightly news.
No live chat.
Our parents growing up. No comment section in live chat.
Absolutely not. It was top down, passive reception of something. But the kind of funny thing about it is that, and then hold on, that television then got kind of polarized, and so you had the like MSNBC, which we forget was a sort of right wing network at the beginning, and Fox, and then CNN, and then.
Hey, look. We keep our criticisms of people to ourselves, all right? We keep our criticisms of people to ourselves mentally. All right. I choose who we criticize or not.
MSNBC went liberal establishment versus Fox, and it got television got polarized. And I think at this point, the nightly news on NBC is might as well not even play. I don't think it has any sort of cultural impact. It's reactive, it's old, and so on. But there's this sort of weird thing in our collective psyche in the sense that, so we're now massively fragmented, and we're now in user-generated content. So someone could spend, a young person certainly, but even an older person, they could spend their whole day not receiving any sort of top-down content. They're not watching the nightly news. They're not even watching a movie.
Is Adam Jewish? I would say probably not. I would guess not. His hair is very straight and long. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Watching a live stream of a guy, they're watching some kid play a video game, or they're watching their favorite like QAnon guy on YouTube just streaming about craziness, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and they're generating themselves whether through the comments or through whatever, Facebook chat, post, blah, 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 blah. But we all have this it seems like within this fragmentation, everyone has a sort of fantasy of television. And what I mean by that is that, there are a few things that hold America together. The first is that the other side are a bunch of racist, if not Nazis. So the conservatives like Trump, they're fascists, they're Marxist Nazis, this kind of stuff. And the liberals think the same thing, that, they're fascists, they're Marxist, maybe not Marxists, but they're Nazis. And the other side is demonized in that way. They're racist. But they all have this fantasy of television, of could we return
Big Buyer sent $30 unban me, please.
Sure.
to
I didn't know you were banned. Let me unban
where
you.
we all got along as the American
I didn't even know you
people.
were banned.
And I guess what
Now I can
would
ban you again
suggest
after
is that
unban you.
that's impossible without a technological structure that informs everyone's mind. In the sense that
No, you're unbanned. You're
20th century
unbanned.
consensus, no doubt it was a racial consensus in many ways. No doubt about it. And it was more of a patriarchal society. No doubt about that. And it was a Protestant society. No doubt about that. But it was also a technological society. And it's like we're hoping to all go back to some point that we can't possibly go back to. First off, there have been religious fragmentation, there's been racial, gender fragmentation, no doubt, but there's also that technological fragmentation. We can't.
Will you
go
be
back
reading the
to an
Richard Spencer
era
book?
in which we're all
Does he have a
watching
book out
the
yet?
same damn game show.
I'll read
at
it.
8 p.m. while we're eating
Yeah, I'll read
TV
it.
dinners, and dad is sipping a bourbon, and mom is doing the laundry in the background. The two kids are on the ground like staring at the boob tube. We have this fantasy of going back to someplace. TV gets people make fun of television. It's passive, it's mind numbing or whatever, but that's what they want. They have a fantasy of that kind of unity that technology could bring. But it's now like, I don't think there's any possible way that we could like come together as a national entity anymore due to these technological changes.
Yeah, it's everybody's like almost been separated into ghettos for
Yeah.
their specific interests. There's way more variety to choose from, so way more sectarian divides, basically.
Yeah.
There's way more options too. It got me thinking too, like I don't know how much video games you played, but I was like in a Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and nowadays kids, how much more connected you are in people's video game world. Computer games, you're connected to the internet, and they do, they speak to people, and there's chat rooms, and it's like video games have turned into social media and the internet too, in a large
Definitely.
degree. And that's what a lot of people are doing too, spending all their time playing video games, watching people play video games. The only interactions they have are talking to other people through the video games, watching anime girls play video games.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
And maybe there's almost some new point that we're entering with AI where we're going to use all of this data that we have generated ourselves, all of this detritus that is on the internet and will never go away, that AI can kind
Isn't
of
it detritus? Am I wrong? Is it detritus or is it detritus?
learn from. And I don't know, there's that interesting story of like Instagram and Facebook creating all of these AI accounts. So they're going to just like invent new personalities.
Dang, I won up Big Spence.
Is that you're going to be interacting with. I mean, it's extremely dystopian and horrifying. It's like the dead internet theory. Ugh.
Yeah,
but
it's what they've always been doing. They've always been doing it. Now they're just like going public with it.
Yeah.
Your friends are all going to be robots, and sadly, a lot of people will love it. Like, there's that movie. What is it called? Her, I think, where he's got the robot girlfriend.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, there's going to be sex bots that are AI sex bot droids that people.
Detritus is the correct spelling of the word, while detritus is incorrect. The word is pronounced detritus. Detritus is a term used to describe debris or waste, often from organic matter. Boom. I am correct. I am correct. Chat trying to make fun of me. Earl, you are wrong. Earl, you are incorrect. Yep, we found Big Spence's alt account.
People are gonna buy.
Boom.
Not me,
Yeah.
of course.
It's pretty horrifying, but we're definitely like there. But anyway, I'll back up again. That was kind of like another bigger point than I've been thinking of, because it on one level shows total fragmentation, which lets things get out of control. I mean, I think the Donald Trump phenomenon was no doubt a social media phenomenon. Like he was the candidate from the internet, and you can't really understand him without that. Go ahead. You disagree?
He was made famous by the tabloids and by reality TV. He's the TV guy.
There's
He
no
had the top
there's no doubt
reality
about
TV
that.
show.
What do you think the average IQ of the average Adam Greene viewer? Probably 110, 115. It's people in these circles are higher IQ on average. They're still not very smart, but anybody in these circles is a bit higher IQ. You know, Nick's audience is probably one of the lowest IQ audiences, not because Nick is stupid, but because his audience is so big. It's like the bigger your streaming audience, the lower IQ it is in general. And then the not because the person is stupid, but just because like that's reality. Niche things generally tend to be higher IQ.
He got all of his authority in his boss.
My average IQ, my audience probably average IQ is probably 120, 125, 130.
Aura from that show and from his carefully crafted image that
My IQ is 145.
You know,
Actually, my IQ is 180, like Curtis Yarvin.
marketed himself
no doubt.
as for years. And I just saw a clip the other day. It reminded me he was like billions in debt. So these banks are
Pearson's audience, $30.
giving him all this
$30.
stuff so he can buy all these things. He's billions in debt, and then they bail him out because he's worth more alive than dead to continue being the front man. And now he's president in Israel's greatest president ever. So I disagree. Although it was the internet and Alex Jones and Roger Stone and Steve Bannon and the alt-right that like was part of him coming to power. But I don't know. Do you think if he didn't have the TV career, he would have ever been in that position to do it?
No,
It's weird. It's like he was bailed out and he's Ari Emanuel was his agent, and he's working with, I think, who's the guy from CNN, the Jewish CEO from CNN. They're the ones that did The Apprentice show. And
Ron Unz claims a 200 IQ. Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Household.
When people say they have crazy high IQs, they should also, people who believe them should look up what like the highest IQ you can really test for is. And most of the time, it's less than they can even test for.
Name and best show, and then he's president right after.
It's less than they claim. Like you can't test that high.
It's like who did they?
My IQ is right about Rudyard's
Reagan
IQ.
all over again. The Hollywood star turned conservative icon.
Yeah, and even Ronald Reagan was, his star had faded, and he was on like GE Theater, and things like that.
Trump
he
is
was
in
doing
WWE.
Yes,
bits.
He transitioned both eras. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It was very interesting that he was via Facebook and Twitter. He was getting a direct line to candidates that I think some other candidates had achieved to some degree. Like Ron Paul had certainly achieved that. And who is the guy? He ran in 2004. Alex Jones, definitely.
Jones is the king of the internet, basically.
Yes. But who is the guy who did the we're going to Iowa, Florida? Howard Dean. Yeah, someone put it in there.
The Dean scream. Nick's audience IQ was like 120 when we were just in Cozy, and dropped to 105 with Rumble. I don't think it's that high, honestly. Not that Nick's not smart, but any crazy amount of followers, a vast majority is made by retarded people.
underrated actually in terms of being an internet phenomenon and directly addressing his people via the internet as opposed to using legacy media.
And how much of Trump's social media phenomena, Cambridge Analytica and like high level Peter Thiel tech guys going on?
Yes.
Mercer, another tech guy that was involved with Cambridge Analytica too. So how much of it was that astroturfed and, psychological operations?
Well, that was interesting. Did you guys agree or disagree? What do you guys think? Agree or disagree?
Tweets that you've ever done. One of my favorite tweets that you've ever done was when you said that we've had 2 years of mass noticing. And where has that led us? The great noticing is upon us. And by that, I assume you meant the dissident right in general that has embraced Christian nationalism, Catholicism, and they've
well, not even that high. Yeah, honestly, maybe 5 to 15 IQ.
embraced like the red pill on women and the red pill on blacks and their misbehavior, etc. But they've even started to notice.
Let me poo.
Jews.
I'm not clicking on let me poo, soy jack.
And now there's some that don't notice the
That's
Jews
disgusting.
and things like that. But I would say in terms of the rank and file of the dissident right, they actually are speaking out on the Jews in a remarkable way. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I've seen
In a
this
mostly
before,
retarded way, honestly.
Well,
Is most of what you see.
Yes, but remarkably bold. Let's put it that way. And where has this led us? Where has the great noticing event led us? It has led us to the most hyper-Zionist president of all time. So isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and after the election, now Elon's demonetizing and banning more accounts.
Yeah.
And Trump's going to get back in with the most Zionist administration ever. And it's like they've just given the perfect pretext to pass a bunch of new anti-Semitism laws and BDS laws. And
Yeah, dude, and it's gonna happen anyway. It's like, don't disobey because you get punished. It's like, well, then what's the point? It's just this is a slave. This is like house nigga. House nigga be like, oh, yo, don't do that. Django, don't kill those slavers, Django. You're gonna get in trouble. We're all gonna get in trouble. Like, dude, what are you, a slave? You're like a house slave, dude. It's the Jews, duh.
Trump's going to throw out the protesters from the college campuses, and he's going to defund all the colleges that allow any criticism of Jews or Israel or whatever. And I'm sure they're going to try to implement these Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and the IHRA definition that they've been pushing for years. So we're going to
It's the
see
Jews.
perfect pretext to pass all of that stuff. And so, yeah, what has it led to? Basically just giving them that pretext.
Yeah.
And so much of it online, so much of the criticism of Jews is just like either just false or nonsense or over the top racist or hateful, that it's not going to lead to anything positive, I don't think, honestly.
Yeah.
Not the way things are going.
Is
the
there
main issue?
Yeah, go ahead. Is there something deeper in the sense that, one thing that I've heard about for some time with regard to Israel is this: the Christian Zionists are these strange friends to have.
It's the Jews. My audience. Well, I'll give you a hint of my audience's IQ. When they stub their toe, they look under their bed and say, "It's the Jews. Where's the Jew?" They hit their foot on the like the bed frame. Oh, the Jew made me hit my foot. That's how my audience acts.
No, they
It's the Jews. That's a little hint to their IQ.
think
It's
that
the
all
Jews.
Jews must, or a third of them, or
It's the
something like that,
Jews.
must die during the end times, and a third will convert, or whatever. Then I'm sure you know the exact
Cookie.
number,
I love the cookie.
situation. But it's
My audience, they like cookie. Oh, I like cookie. I like to eat the cookie.
going to be
That's how my audience talks to
massive
themselves.
and bloody and all that kind of stuff. They're
It's the
all white
Jews.
Christians and they're nationalistic. So wouldn't you suspect that they're, if not anti-Semitic, they're a sort of
Very good, Randy
away from
Marsh.
just being anti-Semites or Nazis or whatever. Just be due to their kind of loud, bold fervor that characterizes them. So why on earth would Jews want to work with them? These are the types of people that give New York Times readers the willies. Like, they're scary. They remind them of Nazis. They should never be trusted. But why is it that there has been so many financial dealings between Zionists, Netanyahu in particular, Christian Zionists, Christian nationalists, megachurch preachers? Why is it? And it is this brilliant amalgam where you turn your apparent foe and maybe your potential enemy into your best friend. And he, in so many ways, reinforces what you want. And the fact that Jews, and if I'm right, that they understand what.
I didn't like how Adam Greene was constantly trying to press Keith to disavow Christianity when he wasn't even talking about Adam Greene sucks. Well, he's just obsessed. Not obsessed. Well, yeah, but he just is very hung up on Christianity. Not really. I don't really understand it, honestly. I don't understand. But that's okay. People get hung up about different stuff. I personally don't get it, but whatever.
They're doing. They understand this Caducean or dialectical way of thinking, that they're so much more intelligent than most
So it's an average Jughead IQ? Even lower than mine.
Gentiles who want to go mano a mano with everyone. It's like, I hate the fucking liberals, we're going to beat you next fall, in the election, just you wait. Or, oh, we hate the conservatives. They're a dangerous threat to our country's
What are we talking about
democracy.
here?
Like, it's this mano a mano battle as opposed to that sort of dialectical understanding where your potential enemy really is reinforcing your belief system. And so why don't we apply this same logic? This logic it's almost a consensus now. This is the logic. This is how you understand the Christian Zionists, Hagee and etc. Why can't we apply this logic to the dissident right itself? Like, I would not be surprised at all if we discover that some of these Hitlerist or people with like David Koresh avatars and so on are just outright like working for Zionist. And I don't say that as like groundless speculation or I'm trying to pick fights or whatever. It fits exactly with the logic of what they always do. So is like, we've seen this great noticing lead to a Zionist president. And why shouldn't we conclude, or at least there should be a strong suggestion in our mind that the whole dissident right is a kind of Zionist project?
It's the Jews. Once again, it's the Jews.
And Elon's Twitter, where he's allowed for more
Once again, it's the Jews. Imagine my shock. It's the Jews.
anti-Semitism than we've seen, at least recently. We probably saw this amount back in 2016 or something, but
On 4chan, now it's on Twitter.
that's true. Maybe it actually is more. Maybe all of these liberal watchdog groups are correct. Like, we've hit levels of racism previously thought impossible. I mean, that is fair. My For You feed is a train wreck of stuff that I don't even want to see, to be honest. Just circus act bullshit and endless recitations of like handsome truth blaring the N-word at some teenage girl in Florida or something. I mean, it is absolute brain rot nonstop, but it's anti-Semitic racist brain rot. And the dissident right, maybe they're having second thoughts here and there. They're kind of confused at this moment. Fair enough. But they think they're winning. And they have created a sort of movement for themselves. But at the very, is this not supported by Zionists, or at the very least, do they not grasp that, like, what the dynamic is? Like, if you're continuing to do this and you continue to get more and more Zionist figureheads at the head of your movement, it just keeps happening over and over again. So at some point,
It's the Jews.
like, what you're doing is leading to this.
What is he saying? Is he saying it's the Jews?
You made a good point there about how the enemy reinforces their belief system.
Yeah.
So so much of the great noticing, that's largely because Elon bought Twitter, right, is the so-called Christian Muslim alliance. You see that pushed so much by all of these big accounts, many of them new and anonymous, right? The Muslim Christian alliance. So it's the other two Jewish offshoot religions against Israel, Zionism, Jews, right? And it's actually because of this that the rabbis and Jews are so confident that they're going to like come out on top, or that their prophecies are going to be fulfilled, because their opposition is the Christians and the Muslims, like according to the plan. Like, does anybody see any rabbis? Does anybody think the rabbis are terrified that once they accomplish their third temple and their red heifers and their prophetic plans, that like Jesus is going to come down and destroy them and force them to convert?
So what you're saying is it's the Jews.
Like the Christians believe is going to happen in the end? Of course not. And when the main opposition to Jews is Christianity
What you're saying is it's the
and
Jews.
Islam, and their main gripe is that the Jews killed Jesus, and that they, not that they worship Yahweh, that they secretly worship Satan, and that it's not that they're the Jews of the Torah and the prophetic plan, but they're the fake Jews pretending to be Jews, giving the real Jews a bad name, and it's the Christians are the new Jews now. Like, this type of stuff is so laughable, so easily to disprove. It's such a slim fringe vocal minority online that doesn't represent Christianity, Islam as a whole at all. So it's just circling the wagons basically, and keeping everybody locked in, reinforcing their beliefs, and keeping everybody like, there's an Abrahamic echo chamber. So much of what you see is all centered around Christian conspiracies. They're Khazars, or they're drinking baby blood, or or just like out of proportion, like they control absolutely everything and every one of them, and their father's the devil. Like all of this stuff is all like the wrong reasons, and all missing the actual issue. How I see it, it's completely missing the mark on where we should be, and they're destined to lose. The rabbis are so confident that they're going to win. They see all this rise in anti-Semitism, and what do they think? Oh, that means the redemption is near. It's part of the plan.
Yeah. If someone had talked about a sort of cynical fulfillment of prophecy, which is that I think this was a line, at least from the trailer of the last Indiana Jones movie, where he said something to the effect, I'm not sure I believe in all of magic and so on.
It's the
but
Jews.
I know if you believe in it hard enough, it's real. It's what he said in effect. And maybe the exact line, I kind of mangled it, but I think you get the point. But it's like, if someone had said that there is a sort of cynical fulfillment of prophecy, that there is a plan or a blueprint, and you have cynical actors attempting to implement it, in current events. If you had told me that even 10 years ago, I would have said, that's Da Vinci Code. That's literally the plot to the Da Vinci Code, which was a, C plus movie at best. And
it sounds like it. I'll admit it sounds
Yeah.
like it. When I say it, it sounds like it. But
Da Vinci Code was Kino, honestly. Let's be real. Da Vinci Code was absolutely Kino. Totally Kino movie.
Who
now
are we
I don't
dealing
think
with?
that at all.
well, who are we dealing with too? It's primarily Muslim nations, Christian nations, and then the Jewish nation.
Yes.
And the prophecy is at the core of all of these religions, and they're the ones in the big fight, basically, over the
Yes.
Holy Land.
I think
It's
that
the
is exactly
Jews.
what
Oh.
is happening. And I have not seen this. Now, granted, we all have kind of skewed perspectives because we have our own For You feed in effect, and what's happening among the broader population is a different question. But I actually believe that Twitter is real life. And that we don't live in a this is not 2005 where 15% of the public is online and 5% are super online and the rest maybe check their email. I don't think we're there anymore. Post COVID, I think everyone is online. And I think the ability to even separate your online life and your discussion with someone at the office Christmas party or your friendships and so on, I think that's actually been skewed. I think people like you and I perhaps or other people who are even more online than I am, like we were almost like well ahead of the game. And we were a decade ahead of the game, and now boomers and even older people than that are experiencing what we experienced in 2009, where we were kind of like dating online, meeting friends online, meeting people on the basis of interest and not geography, all that kind of stuff. That's now the norm. I don't think there is any separation. Twitter is real life. I don't think there's any separation actually at this point. So I do think that what you see is an accurate representation of real people and their experience. In fact, what you see on your For You feed or what you see on TikTok is an accurate representation of the collective psyche of the American people. So I do think it's affecting.
It's more than just the American people. It's the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think it's the Americans, and there's a whole lot of foreigners involved that don't have the same intentions. But I agree. Like the political world, the political forum, the public square is definitely happening on Twitter more than Facebook
Jews!
or anywhere else.
All right.
As far as how the average person, like at Disneyland or something, how many of them are on Twitter regularly?
Maybe not Twitter, but they're on TikTok. And they're being influenced by this. Yeah.
Instagram and TikTok. You're right. I mean, it used to be when we grew up, it was like cable TV, right? In movies. And now
Yes.
Yep,
people are
it's the
watching
Jews.
TikTok
Yep,
and Instagram
you
and
solved
YouTube
it.
Reels,
It's the Jews.
where they consume most of their content.
Let's be real. It's the Jews.
Totally.
Can we be real for a second? It's the Jews. What's Roland Rad up to? My favorite. It's Jews. Dang, it's late.